Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is the case of Robbie Middleton. This is the case of a boy who suffered a brutal attack when someone was just watching him in the woods and he didn't know. As horrific as this story is, and you will find out, and I would just like to say, like a disclaimer here, this story is absolute heartbreaking, and completely understand if you want to just duck out now and find a different video. But as well as it is horrific, it follows the story of such an amazing and brave guy who truly had the will to survive. This case was suggested by Jane, so thank you for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have, and of course if you have any more, please do let me know. Robbie Middleton was born on the 28th of June in 1990 to parents Colleen and Bobby in Misspanther, which is in Texas. He had an older brother and an older sister called Clinton and Heather. Robbie was described as a really happy boy. He loved to spend time with his friends, be very social, and just go out and hang out with them all the time. He also really enjoyed going to school, which, you know, you can't say for a lot of kids. A lot of kids actually hate it, but he really liked it. And he was really good at math, even on one occasion testing in the top 2% of the nation for math. The day that Robbie's life would be changed forever was actually on his 8th birthday. So we're on the 28th of June in 1998. Robbie wakes up in the morning. He is super excited because, of course, it's his birthday, and he absolutely loved birthdays. He always got really overly excited about them. He adored them. He goes downstairs, he opens his presents, one of which was a tent that his mum had bought him. She goes ahead and helps him set up this tent in the back garden, and, you know, it's decided that he's going to have a couple of friends over. They're going to have like a sleepover. They're going to stay in the tent. They're going to chill out. You know, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be so good this birthday. He wanted to show his friends all of his presents and just spend time with them on his birthday. It was supposed to be one of the best days of his life, and he was just, like I said, really excited. He got some money for his birthday, and he even went ahead and spent some of that on some fireworks just to make the day even more fantastic. And he had planned out, you know, all these things that they were going to do together. Colleen took Robbie to the grocery store that morning to go and see his cake. And he was just very excited because he was going to have a friend over for the first time ever. And, you know, that made him really happy. He just couldn't wait. Before his friend was going to go to his house, he was going to go to his friend's house. So basically behind the house they had like a wooded area with like a wooded path, and that actually led to the area where his friend lived. And I assume that they would often take this path a lot, like all the kids would go through it, and Robbie would often take it to go and see his friends. So he says his goodbyes and off he goes to go and collect his friend. He enters the woods, but unbeknown to him, there is someone else in those woods watching him and basically lying in wait to attack him. So Robbie's excitedly skipping down the path on this lovely summer's day, waiting to go and tell his friends about all the things he's got. And how this happy, best day of his life kind of day ended is just beyond horrific and beyond tragic, and it's so sad. So this unknown assailant jumps out and grips Robbie from behind and begins his attack. I'm just going to throw another warning here. What they did is beyond disgusting and it is brutal. And so if you want to skip ahead past this point, then please do, because it's awful. So this person grabs him and throws gasoline in his eyes. After that, he didn't really see much, but this person then takes him over to a tree, ties him up with, I'm not sure whether it's a rope or a fishing line. I've seen both of them, so don't know which one it is, but ties Robbie to this tree. They then proceed to pour gasoline over the rest of his body and they set him on fire. Obviously, he was engulfed in flames, and the amazing thing here is that he actually did manage to break free, because the ties that were binding him to the tree, the fire burnt through them and released him, and then he's trying to make his way home, so he's stumbling around trying to get home whilst he's still on fire. He managed to make it to his neighborhood, which was very close by, before he collapsed. A neighbour, Laura Lena Thomason, was one of the first people to find Robbie, and she described what she saw. She said it was really horrible, horrible. It's not something you will ever forget. He had skin dripping from his fingers, literally. He had no clothes, he was just black. He was like stumbling. He wasn't screaming as he tried to get home. Robbie was lying on the ground and his body was covered in burns and blisters and bits of his skin was hanging off. Colleen was obviously told of what had happened at the time she was peeling potatoes in a kitchen, and her husband Bobby was out working on the yard. That was when she took a call telling her that her and her husband needed to go out. She found Robbie where he had collapsed in the street, and that was about 50 yards from where their home actually was, so not really far. She rushes over. Robbie at this point is almost unrecognisable. He had been burnt so badly that it was hard for his own mother to even tell that that was her son. He did manage to say who had done this to him though. He said that Donald Wilbur Collins was the one who had done it. So bearing that in mind, obviously Robbie is rushed to hospital to the burns unit, and that is where they found out that he has third-degree burns over 99% of his body. The only places that weren't actually burnt were the palms of his hand and the soles of his feet. And at this point, most people are probably thinking that, you know, he's not going to survive. His parents were told by the doctors, people don't normally survive those burns. Like 99% of your body, third-degree burns, people normally die as a result of them. And that it was unlikely Robbie was going to survive such a horrific attack. They were told to prepare for the worst. So going back to what he said that it was Donald Collins. Now, Donald is a lot referenced as Don, so that's how I'm going to call him in this video. He was a 13-year-old boy who lived close by. And yes, 13. The age might shock you, but what is even more shocking is that when faced with that news, it didn't surprise anyone in the community that he could have done something like that. By the age of 13, he was already on the sex offenders list, which is just madness to me. He was 13-year-old and he's already on that list. Colleen had already warned her children not to go anywhere near Don. In fact, she told Robbie that if he was ever alone and he saw Don, that he was to run. He was to run anywhere he could that would provide him safety, run straight home, literally just get straight out of there and get away from him. That is how much the community was worried about Don. She also would later say that she felt like Don was stalking Robbie, and she had this feeling that there was just something not right about him. She had refused for him to come into their family's yard because she was afraid that he would hurt her children, that he would assault her children. The police, of course, interviewed Don, but he denied everything. And there were never any witnesses. The only witness to it was Robbie. There was no physical evidence to place Don in them woods at the time of this occurring. And not only that, they couldn't find a motive as to why he would have possibly done something like this. But he was eventually released because they couldn't charge him with relation to the attack. The thing was, even though he had named, Don directly, Robbie was suffering from delirium because of the severity of his burns, the pain that he was going through, just a combination of everything made him delirious. And so he blamed Don. He blamed a few of the suspects that, he said that they burned him. He literally blamed everything from his grandma's coffee being too hot and causing his burns to dogs in the neighborhood causing them. So they couldn't really take that as sort of his word because he's out there blaming everyone and everything. But again, he was delirious. Later on, it came out that after he became more lucid, he constantly said that Don had done it.
Don grabbed on my grass and turned me around and threw the grass in my face.
Okay, and I want to say this again. So what you said was Don grabbed you, turned you around, and threw gas in your face? Is that right?
Yes.
But in that very moment, the police could not prove beyond reasonable doubt that he was the one that attacked him. And again, they had no motive, they had nothing, so they couldn't do anything. Now, astonishingly, Robbie beat the odds, and he survived this vicious attack. His entire body was burned. His internal organs had suffered damage because the burns were that bad that they literally damaged his internal organs. His eyelids were also burned off. It was said that in the first few months of his recovery, he would just scream and scream and scream. And I literally just can't even imagine what he went through and what his family and those around him went through as well, because seeing your family member in that much pain is just is so awful. So whilst Colleen was in hospital taking care of Robbie, you know, you had Bobby who had to go out to work to provide for the family. You had her other 2 kids who were at home. And she herself later admitted that because she was so focused on caring for Robbie, caring for her son, like you would be, you know, she did leave her children at home a lot, and she did miss out on a lot of things, like milestones of theirs because of that. Obviously, it couldn't be helped, but she does feel guilty for that. I mean, this entire case is just totally devastating what this poor family went through. Robbie had over 200 surgeries. He had skin grafts, he had physio. He was just in hospital a lot of his life, but he battled through it all. The burns had gone through all of his fatty tissue and even into his muscles, so that, along with scar tissue from the numerous burns and the skin grafts, made it quite difficult for him to be mobile. And he also did lose vision in one of his eyes, but he amazingly survived. He was just such an amazing person. Despite his horrific injuries, Robbie was so upbeat, and he would often say things like, "The past is the past, you need to let it go." He was the one who kept the entire family upbeat like him. He had the most amazing, optimistic nature and maturity for such a young boy who went through such a tragic thing and painful thing. He got through 11th grade, mostly whilst in hospital, and he had these big dreams of learning how to drive a car and becoming a wildlife rehabilitator. Robbie would also do things as he got older, like fundraise outside of Walmart for other burn victims, and he would just raise money for them. He travelled to San Antonio to try and get people in charge of the burns hospital over there to try and get it back up and running after it suffered a flood from a hurricane in 2008. Robbie often looked at other burns children and felt like they were worse off than him, in the sense that some of them had actually had those burns done to them by their own parents. So he was just always thinking about others all the time. Robbie relearned how to ride a bicycle, he learned how to swim, and in so many ways he was just a typical teenager. He had girlfriends, he would enjoy playing video games and doing things like listening to rap music, things like that. Robbie was very well known for his charming and cheeky personality. In the meantime, in the year 2000, when Donald was 16 years old, he was found guilty and charged with the sexual assault of an 8-year-old boy. He served time in jail for that. He also served time for failing to register under the sex offenders list. And he was released from prison on the 5th of September in 2011. Robbie was such an amazing, brave, inspiring person, but sadly, 10 years after this horrific attack, his organs did begin to fail. It was because of how badly he was burned, and he was also prone to this real horrible type of skin cancer, and that was because of how many skin grafts he had had. At the age of 20, he received the devastating news that he had developed that rare type of skin cancer. Around about this time, the family had this attorney called Craig Seco, and he was starting to put together a case, pro bono mind, to one day be able to get justice for Robbie in this civil case for $150 billion against Don Collins. Apparently he was using the hearing to gather information, because obviously he wanted to get justice for Robbie. But after living with these burns for 13 years, Robbie took an unfortunate turn for the worse, and Craig decided that they were going to have to do the disposition just in case that Robbie didn't make it to the trial. Robbie sat in his own deathbed and made a 27-minute long video, and 17 days after that video was made, Robbie Middleton passed away at the age of 20 on the 20th of April 2011, just a few weeks before his 21st birthday. Even though he had died due to the actual skin cancer, the US court did rule his death as a homicide because the skin cancer was caused as a result of the vicious attack that was laid on him. In the video that Robbie made, he revealed that 2 weeks before he was burned in those woods, Donald Collins had actually sexually assaulted him in that exact same spot. He had forced himself onto Robbie, and Robbie could do nothing about it. This finally revealed a motive as to why Don may have wanted to attack Robbie that day. After more than a decade, he had set him on fire to try and kill him, so that he would never ever tell anyone what had happened to him. what Don had done to him. In the tape, he also made another chilling revelation that whilst he was on fire, he heard an adult voice who was speaking to Donald. After Robbie passed away, Donald was arrested with murder. During the trial, Colleen got up on the stand and she said that in the month prior to Robbie's death that he was really worried about dying. He was worried about dying because he didn't want to spend an eternity in hell burning. And I found this really sad when I read it, because it came out that later on he had admitted to another burn victim that he talked to called Gordon Prang, and Gordon Prang came forward and said that Robbie had said to him that somebody had forced himself upon him and sexually assaulted him, and that even though by no means in any way was this consensual, that he viewed it as a sin because he viewed it as him having sex before marriage. And it's thought that that is where he got the idea that he was going to end up in hell from, because he was sexually assaulted at the age of 8 and he classed that as sex before marriage and thought that he would burn in hell because of it, which fully just broke my heart. The fact that he's thinking about that for all them years. And apparently Robbie lived his life in a way so that he could try and avoid ending up in hell. Awful. Robbie felt an immense shame and guilt and embarrassment for what Don had done to him, and that is what stopped him from telling the truth for all those years. He didn't want anyone finding out, especially not his own mother, and so he kept it a secret. Robbie suffered so much in his short life, and he felt such shame for something that was not his fault in any way, and that is just beyond tragic. During the trial, many people would come forward to say that Don had attacked them too, one saying that after he sexually assaulted them, that Donald actually told them that they ought to keep it quiet or he would burn them. Other people came forward to say that Donald had actually admitted to setting Robbie on fire to them. Then one of his family members came forward and testified to say that he had admitted to setting Robbie on fire along with Rex. Now Rex was actually his uncle, and people have wondered as to whether this could have been why Robbie said that he heard the adult voice. Was Rex also there? They did look into Rex, but the prosecution really didn't believe that he was involved in any way. They do believe that an adult was there, that Robbie wasn't mistaken, that an adult was there, but that it just wasn't him. So who that person was, whether it was Rex, whether it was someone completely different, might never be revealed, because at the moment Don is keeping his mouth shut on that one. In 2015, 17 years after the brutal attack on Robbie, Donald Wilburn Collins was found guilty of the murder of Robbie Middleton. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Robbie's family will never ever forget his strength and bravery, and neither will we. He suffered so much during his life, and just all of the pain that he endured, and yet he was full of dreams. He was a beacon of light for his family. He was the one that kept everyone from falling apart, and after being only 8 and suffering through all of that, I just find Robbie miraculous. I find him absolutely amazing, and that is a truly inspirational story. Despite everything that happened to him, he was amazing. He was just an amazing, brave person. But yeah, this was a really heavy case, and if you have stuck around and watched it all, you know, I appreciate you guys, and obviously those who haven't, you know, it's not for everyone. These cases are so hard and they take such a toll on you. Like me researching this one, it was really difficult, but obviously I wanted to share his story. I wanted to share the horrific thing that happened to him and the amazing person that he was, because he truly was amazing. So yeah, that is the end of the case. If you have enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway guys, that's all I have today on the case of Robbie Middleton. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.